welcome back to this special episode of 31 Tales, where I shall be narrating for your listening displeasure and discomfort 2 stories written by my old friend Mr. Cemetery. If you listen to my story Beneath the Underpass on the Terror Tales channel or podcast, you will already be aware of the amazing narration. However, the following short, sharp examples of horror will demonstrate that Mr. Cemetery is much more than just a voice. When I listen to Terror Tales, I'm struck by 2 things. Firstly is the storytelling. There's no wasted words, no unnecessary detail. The stories are well structured and far less random than those you might find on this podcast. Secondly is the well of imagination that Mr. Cemetery uses to write his terror tales. That well seems to be a deep, dark place where ideas spawn like luminous mould in the blackness, so that a new episode is always just around the corner. A lot of work goes into those tales, and yet work alone is not enough. It takes a combination of hard work and talent to create content of such a high standard. And with that, I proudly present 2 stories from the Terror Tales Lost episodes. Up first, The Pillow. There was a young girl named Alicia who moved with her parents to a new town. They rented a big old house that was furnished. Alicia slept in the downstairs bedroom while her parents slept upstairs. After they had been living there a few weeks, Alicia's parents noticed that she was growing very thin. As the days went on, her health seemed to get worse and worse. Then the poor girl came down with a mysterious illness and was confined to her bed. The doctor came to examine her, and he told her parents that she was suffering from anemia. All she needed was some rest, he said, and soon she would be as good as new. However, despite what the doctor said, Alicia's condition continued to get worse and worse. Her skin was grey and pallid, her cheeks were sunken, and there were dark circles around her eyes. Her parents were distraught and had no idea what to do. While Alicia slept in her bed, her mother and father paced back and forth restlessly, wondering what could be the cause of her mysterious illness. Day by day, hour by hour, the poor girl grew worse and worse. She was so weak she could barely move. Alicia was fading fast, and the life was dwindling from her veins. She was deathly pale, and her body was shriveled and withered. She started to have strange visions, and began screaming out in terror, and babbling incoherently in a weak voice. Finally, Alicia lost consciousness and died. Her parents were heartbroken. They held a funeral service and buried their beloved daughter in the town cemetery. The day after the funeral, Alicia's mother was stripping the sheets off her daughter's bed when she noticed something on the pillow. There were 2 red stains in the white material. When she picked up the pillow, she noticed it was unusually heavy, so she called her husband to come and take a look. As the parents examined the pillow closely, the mother suddenly let out a scream. She felt something moving inside. The father fetched a knife and slit open the pillow, emptying the feathers out onto the floor. The parents watched in horror as something crawled out of the pile of soft white feathers, slowly moving its legs. It was a monstrous black spider, so swollen with blood that they could scarcely make out its mouth. Night after night, as Alicia lay in bed, this hairy abomination had been slowly sucking all the blood from her body and slowly draining her life away. The Vault. There was a boy who got a summer job working in a cemetery. It was not the type of work he would normally choose, but his dad was friends with the undertaker and had convinced him to take the job despite his fear of dead bodies. It was a very eerie place to work, and after being there for over a week, the boy still got the creeps when he caught sight of a corpse. Luckily, he didn't have to get anywhere near the dead bodies. His work consisted mainly of digging graves, sweeping, polishing, and cutting grass. His boss, the undertaker, was the one who prepared the bodies for burial. The scariest things were the vaults. Families bought these large tombs, and every member of the family who died was placed inside the vault in their own coffin. It creeped him out to think about all those bodies lying around inside the dusty chambers and secret rooms. The boy gradually got used to working in the cemetery, and everything went well until one evening the unthinkable happened. While he was inside one of the vaults, sweeping the floor and polishing the nameplates, a gust of wind blew the vault door shut. He realised to his horror that he was trapped inside, surrounded by dead bodies in coffins, with no one to help him. His worst nightmare was coming true. He shouted and hollered, but it was no use. The undertaker's house was too far away, and nobody could hear him. As the hours passed by, the desperate boy realised that he would have to rely on himself, and began trying to think of a way out. There was a small open window high above the vault door. Unfortunately, it was much too high to reach. Looking around the tomb, he decided he could use the coffins if he stacked them up, one on top of the other. They could form a flight of steps. After stacking the coffins up against the door, the boy climbed up them, taking care not to topple them over. Just when he thought his plan was working, he stepped onto the coffin at the very top, and the wood gave way under his weight. His foot went straight through the coffin lid, and he felt a sudden, sharp pain in his leg. Crying out in agony, he could picture the splintered wood and rusty nails slicing into his skin. The stack of coffins began to wobble, and for one horrifying moment, he thought he was going to lose his balance and tumble down to the stone floor. Luckily, he managed to grab onto the window and steady himself. He could feel blood trickling down his leg. Despite the pain he was in, the boy pulled himself up and began shaking his leg to free himself from the coffin lid. The stack of coffins tipped over and crashed to the ground. Clinging to the window, the boy pulled with all his might and crawled through the narrow opening. He dropped down on the outside and limped towards the undertaker's house to get help. The undertaker came out and found the boy lying on his doorstep, clutching his bleeding leg. He carried the boy to his car and drove him straight to the hospital. After the doctor washed off all the blood, he began to examine the boy's wounds. "How did you get this injury?" asked the doctor. "I got cut by some broken pieces of wood," said the boy. "But these aren't cuts," said the doctor. "This is a human bite mark."